I'm Robert Ferris with the Tarrant County Master Gardeners. I've been a Master Gardener for almost 5 years now, and I got into working with the enabling beds. One reason is because these beds are for people with some type of disability or some type of challenge, or they can be used by just the regular home gardener for comfort's sake. Most of the time our beds are very low to the ground, or we're actually planting in the ground. Our soil in this area is not really conducive to planting straight into the bed. Most of us have hard clay or caliche rock. So most people use raised beds. These enabling beds are a type of raised beds. They're simply usually higher up. Now, as we look around these beds, we'll start on this side and move down. This bed has a bench. The reason for this, not only to relax, but you can sit here and garden. So people who cannot bend over or that tire easily, maybe they have some type of lung issue so they can't breathe, they can still garden. So that's what this bed is for, on this type bed. And in this bed right now, it's not really a vegetable, but we also use this as a training. This is cotton. So we're trying to show people where cotton comes from. And there's actually a few bowls. Right there's a cotton boll getting ready to mature. And we can plant. People sometimes ask, what can you plant in a garden? Anything you want, basically. This is a type of squash. This one is almost at the end of its life because the disease has got into it, and so this will come out tomorrow and will soon be replaced. But we can go in here and pick a squash. This is perfectly edible, and it will come out. Let's say this bush's life is finished. It'll come out tomorrow, and we'll get ready for our fall crops. Also in a garden, it's always necessary to have pollinators. We have here, these are chives, and they bloom, and the butterflies, the bees come to get their nectar, and then they get their pollen. So we put these in each bed, and the reason, because they're easy to grow, they take no care, they multiply very, very rapidly. You could eat them if you want, but they're planted predominantly for the pollen. So they'll be our pollinators for the fall.
The Tarrant County Master Gardener Association has partnered with the Tarrant Regional Water District to encourage water conservation. TRWD maintains 4 area lakes and pipelines needed to provide surface water to local water treatment plants so they can clean that water to meet drinking standards for our communities. They also work with many cities in Tarrant County, such as Fort Worth, Arlington, Mansfield, and many others, to provide water conservation programs to the community. Conservation is an important water supply strategy to help meet the needs of our growing population. There are currently 2.3 million people living in Tarrant County, and this is expected to double over the next 50 years. At SaveTarrantWater.com, you can sign up for free weekly watering advice, custom to your location. If you're a resident of Tarrant County, you can sign up for a free sprinkler's checkup, where a licensed irrigator comes to your home, provides a comprehensive evaluation of your system with recommendations to reduce water waste. There's also an event calendar where you can find information about future classes and workshops. So be sure and check out SaveTarrantWater.com to sign up for their free services.
It's also good to have an area where you can sit down. You might get tired, so you can have a pergola, a bench, maybe a couple of lawn chairs. That way, if you get tired, you have a friend over, you can rest and relax. Now this bed, it's kind of hard to see because we've got cucumbers. We just picked this one this morning. We've got cucumbers in this bed, and they, vine. This is a vining type. There are some bush varieties. The vines go everywhere. In fact, they've gone into the peppers. People of different height, children, adults, teenagers, whatever, they can come in here and grow. Also, if you have a wheelchair, you can come here. Again, children can go to one end in a wheelchair, smaller, adults, some of the newer, what do you call them, electronic, self-propelled wheelchairs, they're a little taller. You can come in here and still garden. The idea is to enable everyone to garden. Now, this particular one is a trellis type. Now, it's not on the stone, but it's out here. This again, you could wheelchair here, you could wheelchair underneath. Some types of plants you want to climb, such as tomatoes, such as watermelon. Now, watermelons are not really good to plant. I don't recommend it in my classes except for an experiment. Watermelons take a lot of room to grow. They also take a lot of water. And all you get is a couple of small watermelons. It's much, much cheaper to go buy one than it is to grow one. Also, the seedless watermelons, the seeds are usually, when you buy them, they're all female because if there was both, they would pollinate and therefore you would get seeds. So when you buy a pack of seeds, maybe there's 100 seeds in that package, maybe only 10 will be males. Which in this garden, you only want to plant 2. Well, how do you know that you've got the 2, one male and one female? And so it's much, much cheaper and easy to buy a watermelon. Same with pumpkins. They take a lot of room. Now, a good thing to plant here would be climbing beans. Or you can plant these smaller pumpkins, like the little well, I can't remember the name, but anyway, the small varieties. You see them at Halloween time. Those would be great here. Squash, climbing squash, cucumbers would be good here. Actually, we have a ever-blooming wisteria growing on this one right now. But again, a wheelchair can easily pull in here. And you can change the height of this if your wheelchair happens to be a different height. Now, we talked a little bit about the flooring. You want to have something that is safe for wheelchairs, but also to walk on. That's why we have this stone, bricks. If your soil is very hard, that will be okay. In some places it may not be, so be very careful about that. Another thing you have to look at is turning. With a wheelchair, it has to be a certain turning radius so that the wheelchair can turn. These are set up for ADA, American Disabilities Act standards. Now, if you build it at home for your own use, you can change it a little bit depending on your situation. Because in a demonstration garden, we set it up for ADA standards at the time they were built so that anybody can come. We have another trellis, and we have our good friendly chives, pollinators. Notice in this bed we also have some chives. You can also use any type of flowering plant. You can put marigolds. You can put anything that will bring the butterflies and bees. We just happen to put chives because they're easy. They continue to grow year after year after year. And so we have plenty of them. Again, it's a trellis. We can grow climbing beans, I just took off we had some purple climbing beans here. I just took them off. They were finished their lifespan, and we'll replant for the fall. Now sometimes in your enabling bed, you might put in a container. We have here as an old wash tub, but you can use any type of container. Now, we've had some high winds lately, so I planted corn in here to show the young people corn. The high winds that we've had blew it over and broke the stalks, so we won't get it. We've got different heights. Again, we have the heights. They're actually easier to see on the other side, but the heights are marked. But this is, again, for different heights of wheelchairs. This is regular pressure-treated wood. Now, the new style pressure-treated wood is okay to plant vegetables in. The old, from many years ago, that was treated with so many different chemicals. They're not doing that anymore, unless you specify that kind. For, let's say you're building a house, a barn on the ground, you may want that for that, but you specify that when you buy it. But generally speaking, most pressure treated nowadays is acceptable. You would not want to put regular wood here. It will rot in a couple of years because of the wet wood. Also, this bed is made of red cedar. That will last much longer than this. Also, it is not harmful to vegetables. You can eat your vegetables, not a problem. Red cedar is going to cost you a little bit more. This bed cost about $500 to build that bed, but it will last 10, 15 years. So it's gonna pay back its time. Now, these beds are a little different. Those beds, the soil goes all the way to the bottom, just soil. This bed, we have the soil, we have a landscaper's cloth underneath to keep the soil from running out, and underneath is some siding, metal siding, so the water hits it, flows off, and then we have some bracing. Soil, any type of good gardening soil will work. Not potting soil, but good gardening soil with a lot of compost. That will work. You can see here also, one of the questions we have asked is, how do you water this? You can see we have drip irrigation. And why do we use drip irrigation? One, it's very efficient. It puts the water right at the plants. It doesn't go on the leaves. So when you're watering, you could get the leaves wet on these strawberries, and soon you'll get rot. Also, this is very efficient as far as cost. This puts out a set amount of water, which is very cost efficient, and it saves our resources. We're very short on water, so we want to make sure that we use our water appropriately and the right amounts. When you're watering by hand with your garden hose, I guarantee you most times you'll way over water and just waste water. It'll run out on the ground, it'll run out on the street when you water your yards, things like that. This way we're saving money, we're saving water, and we're getting it to the roots, to the lower section. Now this bed, notice that the bottom, the board doesn't go to the ground. Now why is this? Well, because you can slip your toes underneath it and get closer to the bed. Otherwise you would be like this, and you'd have to bend a little bit. So the idea here is that you can slip your toes under and get closer to the bed. And again, this bed has got drip irrigation, got our chives, And in this case, we have a rosemary that has just gone absolutely crazy. We have everything from cotton, cucumbers, tomatoes, we got peppers, we got squash, we got herbs. You could plant your whole bed in herbs. You can plant it in flowers. Anything basically you can plant here. This bed we actually had potatoes in it, red potatoes. And in this section, which is about 5 feet, we got 25 pounds of potatoes out of this section. You can garden in containers. Containers, if anybody's bought them, are sometimes expensive. Well, using a 5-gallon bucket, you can get these for like $3. Now you want to be sure they haven't had paint, oil, anything like that in them. Drill your holes about so far off the ground for the water to run out. We also have various containers that you put in here. One that I don't have, those shopping bags. Not the plastic ones, but the cloth ones. You can use those. They'll last about 3 months. Just fill them up with potting soil, and those are very inexpensive. This would be for one small tomato bush, one pepper bush. No, you have to remember the size. A big tomato like those would not work here. But small pepper, small tomato would work here fine. Several of the herbs could grow here very easily. And as you see, we have flowers. And these are very happy here, and they will grow very fine. We're talking about different containers. Again, maybe you don't have room for nibbling beds. Containers are fine. Again, these are readily available at many different stores. Plastic, pottery, ceramic, all different kinds, including one here that, this is one that I got from a nurseryman. They had planted some trees down the street. All they were going to do was throw that away to the recycling. It's a tree pot, probably a, I don't know, 40 or 50 gallon pot. It goes good for plants. Now it doesn't look all that pretty, but it's not bad. And of course, these come in all different sizes, colors, price ranges. You can use them. This size, you could easily grow 3 small tomatoes or even one large one. I have one of these that has about 6 okra plants, and they're happy. Regular potting soil, lots of compost, and they work fine. Again, these have drip irrigation, which is the most efficient way to water. And you set your controller, water it. Now, if you want to water by hand, because it is very relaxing, that's not a problem either. Just turn it on slowly, and then just come out and water.